Hello everybody, my name is Anthony Effort and welcome back to another episode of God's Secret. Now if you have not already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, not only so we hit our goal of 1 million subscribers in a year, but also so we get 2,000 as quickly as possible and my buddy Chad quits smoking once and for all. And with all that out of the way, it is now time to get into the actual topic for today's video, which is a pretty controversial one. And here's the thing, I've been thinking about making this video for about a month or so, and the more I think about it, I just feel like it's rumbling around my head like this for a reason. I feel like I need to make this video because I'm gonna make some points that I think a lot of people need to hear. So with that being said, the topic of this video is that BLM does far more harm than good. And before I dive into my first point, I just want to say this. Now clearly it is up to you, but one thing I do ask is that if you disagree with me, please watch the whole video before you give feedback. I mean, if you watch this whole video and you think I'm an idiot, please let me know and explain all the things I'm missing. But again, clearly it's up to you, but one thing I do ask is that you please watch the whole video before you respond. And the reason I don't like BLM and think they do far more harm than good is quite simple. Quite simply, they're built upon selling false narratives to blacks. With the biggest one, of course, being that the police are going around targeting, trying to kill as many blacks as possible. Now, here's the thing. Am I saying that blacks weren't oppressed for years and years and years? Of course not. Am I saying that racism doesn't still exist today? Of course not. But what I am saying is that the whole idea that the police are going around targeting blacks, what I am saying is that that is false. And clearly, I have far more to say on that topic. But before I do, I just want to ask this. If you support BLM, just please answer this question. How do we know that the killing of George Floyd was racially motivated? The killing of George Floyd or really any of these recent shootings? Because here's the thing. Whenever I start to say that, people's automatic response is, oh, come on. How are you going to say Derek Chauvin was justified? No, of course I'm not saying that. We're all on the same page about that. Obviously, Derek Chauvin was a bad cop. It was in the wrong. But here's the thing. How do we know it was racially motivated? How do we know? We don't. Or if we do, please fill me in on how we know. How do we know that the killing of George Floyd or any of these recent cases were racially motivated? How do we know? Because believe me, I have looked and looked for the answer to that question. I have looked and looked for the evidence that shows that the killing of George Floyd or any of these recent shootings was racially motivated. I've looked and looked. And as more and more time passes, I just get sadder and sadder about this whole situation because I'd love for this not to be the case, but as more and more time passes, it really just seems like so many people I love and care about have just been, it seems like they've been entirely misled. It seems like they've been entirely misled, and they're all good people, and that's why they go along with this, because they're all good people that are against racism, but they just, I hate to say it, but it's the truth. As more and more time passes, it just makes me sadder and sadder because it just becomes clearer and clearer that so many people that I love and care about have just been entirely misled. And what makes it even worse is that the whole BLM movement is just so divisive. What I mean is, I'm sure everybody watching this has seen all those posts on Facebook. Wait, how could you not? They're all over the internet. All those posts saying, "Oh, if you don't support BLM, unfriend me now." And then all those posts nicely explaining what you guys are saying when you say Black Lives Matter as opposed to All Lives Matter. All those posts are just so condescending. It's just the thing, and it just sucks too because the whole movement is just so divisive and so oh, well, we're standing for blacks' rights. So if you don't just go along with this 100%, then you're clearly just racist. And you know what? I have no reason to tolerate you. It sucks. That really is the whole mindset behind it. For example, my nice little grandma got into an argument with a BLM follower recently, and she deleted my grandma. Was going on about how my grandma saying how she's a horrible person and racist. My grandma's the least racist person ever. It's just so divisive. And because it's so divisive by nature, it's just so counterproductive when it comes to eliminating the actual racism that still exists in the world today. And a perfect example of it being extremely counterproductive and sending us backwards as a society is it happened between me and my super close friend, or really my brother Lolo. Because here's the thing, it's like I've said multiple times in this video, and like I say all the time, yes, racism definitely still does exist in the world today. But has that ever and would that ever interfere with Lolo and I's friendship? No, of course not. And here's the thing too, like I said, not only is he a close friend, he's literally a brother to me, and we'll be good again eventually. But at the same time, him and I literally haven't spoken in 4 or 5 months over a disagreement about BLM. Which is just so ridiculous to me because when he lived in Atlanta for a year, he would talk constantly, and now he's back in Michigan 20 minutes away, and we literally never speak. It just, I don't know, it's a weird situation. But anyway, like I said, him and I will be good again eventually. But at the same time, though, like I said previously, in the past, racism never had, and it never would interfere with their friendship. But this whole BLM movement has. But that particular situation aside, can somebody please inform me as to what BLM has actually done to help stop racism? Because I agree, Black lives most certainly matter. And every time I go on Facebook or just any social media, I see post after post about BLM. Whenever I watch sports, for example, whenever I watch the NBA, I notice this is Black Lives Matter on the court. But what are they actually doing to help stop racism? And while I'm on the topic of the NBA in particular, you know that whole thing where instead of it saying their names on the back of the jerseys, instead of it saying their names, now it says stuff like education reform or Black Lives Matter, but like that whole thing. How is that anything other than just blatant pandering? Like, I just imagine the owners like, oh yeah, let them do that, and yeah, they'll feel good about themselves, whatever. Like imagine like you're actually like a racist. Like, is that going to change your ways whatsoever? Like, are you going to see that and be like, oh, it says Black Lives Matter on the jersey, done being racist? Like, it's just because the thing is, like, as a non-racist, I see that and I think, yeah, Black Lives Matter, but like, what are you actually doing by wearing that? Which, and if you want to wear it, great, but like, what is the whole BLM movement actually accomplishing? Because everything I see as a result of it is just division. Now, one answer that I have heard in response to that question of what is BLM actually doing is that they're spreading awareness, which to me is just I don't see how spreading misinformation and false narratives is spreading awareness. Because again, from my perspective, the only thing I see BLM spreading is misinformation. Again, that whole narrative about the police just being bloodthirsty and just out to kill as many blacks as possible, that whole narrative that BLM loves to spread, it's not true. It's misinformation, and it's doing a lot of damage to our community. It's horrible the damage that whole false narrative is doing. I just do not see how spreading that misinformation and false narrative is spreading awareness. And the thing is, like, I get why people say that. I get how people can hear all the stuff that BLM says, and like how they can just hear a lot of stuff you hear nowadays in society in general, and think that that really is what BLM is doing. But them spreading awareness about racism, it's not what they're doing. They're spreading misinformation and they're spreading fear. And I'm also certainly not saying that there's like some big conspiracy theory behind BLM and that their goal is to divide us, but it seems that way sometimes. And here's the thing too, maybe, I mean, how am I to know their intentions? Maybe the people behind BLM, maybe their intentions are pure. Maybe they really do think that they're doing the best they can and that they're addressing real problems that are affecting blacks everywhere. Maybe they really do just have pure intentions. Because the thing is, like, so many people I know and like care about a ton. Like so many people I know the people that I know personally that are on board with them. I know the people I know have pure intentions. I know the people I know are just loving people, and in their minds, being on board with BLM is just being a loving person and helping others. And in all honesty, it bums me out that I can't support them when it comes to a cause that they care about a ton. Like it genuinely bums me out that I have to tell them, like, okay, no, I'm not on board with that. Because, again, I would love to support them, but at the same time, though, like, I can't support a cause that I deep down know is doing far more harm than good. And it also bums me out that I can't even get open dialogue with these people. And the thing is, like, the first like knee-jerk response from a BLM supporter when you start saying that you don't believe that BLM is actually helping is that, oh, well, you're white, so you wouldn't know. Like, that's the thing. That's the thing too. Like, if I can't identify and I can't understand, no, I mean, I understand that obviously I will never live life as a black person. I understand that. But at the same time, though, if you're just going to say that I can't understand because I'm white and that's going to prevent us from even having a conversation, then I just don't see how this whole cause, because of that as well, will ever help us make any progress. Because wouldn't it only be logical that the great organization that finally helped us crush racism once and for all would be one that supported open dialogue and mutual understandings? Because the thing is, people that support BLM act like the organization is infallible. They act like everything they say is just perfect, and if you aren't 100% on board, then you're racist, and we have no time to tolerate it. Like I already know so many people are going to comment on this video just like, oh, racist. So, oh, okay, yeah. I can't believe I wasted time watching this. Like, I already know I'm going to get that just for making this video. But, like, again, just simply put, wouldn't it only be logical that open dialogue and mutual understandings would be key in eliminating racism? Because yet another question that I just cannot get an answer to is the simple question of what can I do to help? Like, I've asked so many people that so many times, what can I do to help? Because to me, quite obviously, like, just sharing a bunch of condescending posts about BLM on Facebook, to me, that's not a real solution. But if there's a big cause that is so important that we all need to be behind, what can I do to help? It's just simple. What can I do to help stop racism? I can't get an answer to that either, because the second I talk about how I see BLM as just being divisive or just counterproductive and not helping us, I just get like this wall. I just get this wall of like, oh, okay. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, because quite simply, I would, like I said, I would love to be on board with you guys, but I just don't, I don't see the logic behind it. I don't see how what you're doing is actually effective. And with that being said, I'd like to now circle back to something I said towards the beginning of the video, because something that I also do not understand, like I mentioned earlier, is how we know that, for example, George Floyd was killed because he was black. Yes, we all agree that Derek Chauvin is a bad cop, but again, how do we know that he was killed because he was black? We don't. But despite that being the case, the second he was murdered, the immediate narrative around the country was another helpless black person gunned down by racist police. Like that was the immediate narrative, despite us not even knowing that that was the case or not. Like, I don't see how this doesn't add up to other people as well. Like, I feel like what must be going on is that so many people are just used to hearing and therefore believing the false narrative about the police, just being super racist and bloodthirsty to kill blacks. Like people must just be so used to hearing and believing that narrative that they just assume, like, oh, yep, another one. When in reality, and the thing is, like, I'm not even going to take credit for this. Candace Owens, who I think would be an amazing president. Yeah, I'm so racist. I think a black woman would be a great president. But like, for real, Candace Owens would be an amazing president someday. But with that being said, Candace Owens, like, she had that famous video, and she broke it down perfectly. And like, people like Dave Chappelle just called her a dumb bitch, and just like so many people were just like, yeah, that idiot Candace Owens. But it's like, how about watching the video? I don't know if you guys saw the video. If you haven't, after you watch this, you should go watch that infamous Candace Owens video, because she broke it down. It's a real shame too, because so many people, like I said, just labeled her as a dumb bitch, which, I don't know, call me crazy, but from my experience, when people have to resort to personal attacks like that, and when they're incapable of just responding with a logical argument of their own, in my experience, they're the dumb bitch themselves, or else they would respond with a valid argument. Now, I don't think Dave Chappelle's a dumb bitch. I think he's a really smart guy overall. But I think in this scenario, he was the dumb bitch, because if he wasn't, he would have came back at her with facts. But with all that being said, I'm about to paraphrase and explain what she said, but at the same time, though, she put it perfectly. So yeah, I'm gonna explain what she said, but still, you'd be better off hearing her explain it, because she just put it so much better than I'm capable of. But basically, her point was that this whole idea, or this whole narrative that the police are racist and just trying to take out as many blacks as possible, her main point was that whole narrative is false. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of hers, and as I've learned more and more about her, I can see how to me it's pretty clear how she came to that opinion. Because a great line she has is that whenever she's forming an opinion, unlike most people, she doesn't assume that she knows a bunch of stuff already. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. Whenever she's forming an opinion, she assumes she knows nothing. AKA, she goes and does the research. Which is the way I always try to behave too. Even to the extent that even after she said all that, I believed that she was telling the truth, but just because I try so hard to act that way, I even went and double checked all her numbers afterwards. Again, I believed her. But yeah, I just love that. Assume you know nothing and form your opinion that way. Because when you make assumptions, as this whole movement is a great indicator of, when you just make assumptions and just assume that the rest of the card is right, you end up believing false narratives. And I can just so matter-of-factly label the whole narrative of police being racist, bloodthirsty animals trying to take out as many blacks as possible. I can just so matter-of-factly label that as a false narrative because, yeah, true. So many people have told me that I'm white. I couldn't possibly get what it's like to be a black person on this planet for even a second. And that's true. But what I can understand, what I can comprehend, what I can read is simple data. Like, for example, the simple data that indicates on average every year twice as many unarmed whites are killed by the police as unarmed blacks. And here's the thing, on the surface, it might appear as if that data actually refutes what I'm saying, because you may be thinking to yourself, well, Anthony, blacks only make up 13% of the population. So if the number of unarmed whites killed by the police is only double the number of unarmed blacks killed by the police, then it would indicate that blacks are targeted. But here's the thing. If we stop right there and base our opinion off of that, we're not getting the full story. And if we're not getting the full story, then come on, what are we doing here? So with that being said, let's dig a layer deeper and bring up the fact that blacks commit a disproportionate amount of crime, including violent crime. Now, as I say that, I can just imagine people watching this video thinking, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say all blacks are criminals? Of course not, but that's always people's first kind of inkling. Like when I read that up, they're like, what are you trying to say? What I'm trying to do is just be accurate here. If we're gonna get the full story, we have to bring up that because it is a fact. Like, just it's simple. It's a fact, and if we're gonna get the full story, we can't ignore data. We can't. Like, it makes you think of the old saying, "Always run towards the pain." The reason there's the old saying, "Always run towards the pain," because when you run towards the uncomfortable truth, like the uncomfortable pain, the uncomfortable truth and facts that you don't want to confront, when you do that and you bring those things up, you get to real solutions. There's no other way. Or I suppose technically there is another way because we're living in it. But what I mean to say is there's only one right way to handle it. There's only one right way to handle problems, and it is to confront the ugly truth. Because if we don't do that, we're stuck in a situation like this, where we have this ridiculous idea in our heads, where even though police are just normal people like us, we label them all as racist and say they're the problem. We say all our family members who we've loved all our lives, they're the problem and they're racist. So I suppose there is another way, but there's only one correct way to find solutions, and it is to address the real facts. And clearly, like I previously mentioned, in this case, the fact that we need to confront is the fact that blacks commit a disproportionate amount of crime, including violent crime. And if you don't believe that, just simply go to the FBI website and you'll see that, for example, the last 2 years, 50% of all murders were committed by black men. Now, here's the thing, like, we have to really be smart here and say, what does that mean? Well, it means a lot. It really just depends on how far you want to take it. Like in Candace's video, she just simply took it to the point that, well, clearly, if blacks commit a highly disproportionate amount of crime and therefore have far more interaction with the police, and the number of unarmed blacks is still only half the number of unarmed whites killed by the police, well then it's clearly a false narrative that cops are racist and trying to take out as many blacks as possible. And of course, because Candace is an absolute genius and supremely intelligent, I'm sure, in private, in her mind, she has far more to say about it, but just when it came to the video, that was her conclusion. And I'll say for a third time in this video, huge Candace Owens fan. She'd be a great president. Oh, and also in regards to Candace Owens, I doubt she'll see this video. But Candace, if you are watching, congratulations on the recent pregnancy. Made me very happy to see. Oh, and also, like I said earlier, if you have not seen her infamous video she posted a few months ago yet, check it out. It's a damn good video. But moving beyond the highly inspirational Candace Owens, it's like I said earlier, you can really take this as far as you want. Which I certainly did last night as I recorded the original version of this video. The original version of this video, meaning this video before I chopped off the last 12 minutes. Because like I said, I went a lot further with it, and it wasn't that I didn't like the points that I made, but I just kind of felt like I'd already covered so much in the video that I'll probably discuss all this stuff in another video, but it just felt like the right move to just save all this stuff for another video. And with all that being said, I'll have this video posted within the next hour or so, and we will see how this goes. Because clearly, from the second I decided to make this video, I knew that there was going to be a ton of people who vehemently disagreed with me, no matter how well I articulated my thoughts. And if that describes you, shout out to you. Seriously, thank you for checking out my video. Even if that's you and you just completely disagree, either way, thank you. And also, if that describes you, now all I can do is ask, it's up to you. But if that does describe you and you vehemently disagree with me, please leave a real comment. Meaning, and no disrespect when I say this, but meaning that if you're going to try to write me some big comment about how I'm a racist and be all condescending and say how you're outraged and appalled, quite simply, again, no disrespect here, I ain't trying to hear it. Being talked down to and wasting time in an argument that's not going to go anywhere, I'm not interested. But what I am very much interested in, and really the whole reason I made this video, was because I want to have some real discussions with people who disagree with me. Because I sincerely am just concerned about all this unnecessary conflict. And sure, I'm not concerned to the extent that I think we'll never overcome it. We'll definitely overcome it regardless. But if we can avoid some of this unnecessary conflict, let's avoid it. Let's have some real discussions about this. Because it's like I was saying, it is just so hard to it's so hard to find any person willing to have open dialogue about this. And here's the thing too, I feel like this is a really good format to start the conversation on, because just simply put, in any just normal real life conversation, it would be nearly impossible to lay out all the information that I was able to lay out in this video. Oh, and also in regards to the information laid out in this video, now, especially in the way I use the statistic, it really doesn't change anything. But, just in the interest of being accurate, earlier in the video, I said that 50% of all murders the last 2 years were committed by black men. And again, especially in the way that I use that statistic, it doesn't change anything. But just in the interest of accuracy, after I made the video, I kind of had it in the back of my head of like, was that correct? So I looked it up, and the actual statistic is the last 2 years, 54% of all murders were committed by blacks in general. And with all that being said, thank you very much to everybody who took the time to watch this full, very long video. And yeah, with all that being said, I cannot wait for the discussions that I hope come and are very productive after this video. So yeah, again, thank you for watching. I love you all. God bless.